Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. My name is Tiff O'Brien. I'm a North Pragmatic Comfort teacher with 30 years experience. It is the 19th of June 2020. Welcome guys to my weekly quotes. It's not been very weekly lately, but let's try and get back on track. So let's get straight to quote. Never be afraid to raise your voice for honesty and truth and compassion against injustice and lying and greed. If people all around the world would do this, it would change the earth. William Faulkner. Most definitely. This one touched me right here, you know, and it's so true. If people, when they hear injustices or lying or stuff like that, you know, we should open our mouths. And I think bring me on to that point, there was a something going on with the government saying that black people seem more susceptible to this COVID-19, and I thought, oh, that's interesting, let's check that out. So I went to the national statistics and I checked out the deaths in the UK for black people, ethnic people and stuff like that. And I went to the table and I looked and I'm thinking, okay, I could see white, I could see mixed, I could see Indian, I could see Pakistani, Bangladesh, Chinese, black and other ethnic groups. And the largest was white, because obviously they're the majority. But the second largest was black. Now for black it was 1,022 people. I'm thinking that's very low, but maybe I've made a mistake. So I added all the different ethnic groups together, which came to just over 3,000 people. And I'm thinking those deaths are very low. I mean, obviously we mourn every death that's lost, but in the whole picture of things, those numbers are very low. But to me, for black people, 1,022. I mean, do you know how many people are in the UK for black people? 1.9 million. 1.9 million. And the way this government was going on was like some major epidemic. And for me, this is clearly a lie. And I would like the government to actually apologise to the black community, and because this will cause racism and it will cause division, and that's not on. That is not on, and we're not here to be pawns in your game. So that is not on, but I just thought I'd make it clear. I'll leave the link below so you can see for yourselves. Yeah, but again, let's get back to this quote. Never be afraid to raise your voice for honesty and truth and compassion against injustice and lying and greed. If people all around the world will do this, it will change the earth. Most definitely it would change the earth. And I think more black people need to raise their voices about this, because I feel it's an agenda, and I feel they want to experiment on black people, and they want us to be their guinea pig, and that ain't happening. That is not happening. So I thought I'd make that clear. Now, as we're talking about truth and so forth, the next thing I wanted to go on about would be the George Floyd murder. Now, my thoughts go out to the family and stuff, and And obviously, you know, that wasn't on, you know. To kill someone like that, you know, in anyone's book is wrong. Yeah. But also I wanted to go on about the Black Lives Matter, and I wanted to say to people, because I was going to march, because it did hurt me right here, but then some information got revealed to me, and I saw that that Black Lives Matter is funded by a man called George Soros, and George Soros is the 27th richest man in the world. But his ideology is a bit disturbing, if I say the least. But he's 27th richest person in the world, and he uses his billions to impose a radical agenda on America, which will and influences the election, which he hopes will probably influence the elections over in America. So he's got his agenda, but also reading off one of his quotes, and I quote, "Destroying America will be the criminalization of my life's work." George Soros. Another thing that George Soros did was George Soros admits to working with the Nazis, and he said that was one of the happiest times of his life. So let me get this straight. This man has worked with the Nazis, and it was one of the happiest times of his life, and he's funding a black movement. Something's not right. So once again, we're being used in a pawn in a game, and his aim is to create anarchy and disorder. And when we look at the videos, a lot of black businesses have been burnt down. And if you notice, there's a lot of white people in amongst these demonstrations, but also a lot of people are getting paid by this man. So they're getting paid to demonstrate and so forth amongst the genuine demonstrators that are going out to vent their frustrations and their anger in what happened to George Soros. So you've got a mixture of different people, plus Antifa is in there amongst them, creating anarchy and so forth. So he pays these people to go around creating anarchy and distress. So I'm not positive about this movement at all. It's not in line with what we want, and this guy has his own agenda of the 1%ers, which to me seems like deep state. So that's not our agenda at all. So I just wanted to go on that one. Now, another thing, as I go back to the quote, which is, "Never be afraid to raise your voice for honesty and truth and compassion against injustice and lying and greed. If people all around the world would do this, it would change the earth." So I want to come back to an old boy called Lord Sumption, and he gave a very interesting interview to the BBC, and you can find this and all on YouTube, hopefully, but hopefully it will be there. It's Lord Sumption calling out the BBC reporter on the lockdown. Now, he goes on to say, in the cabinet office papers published with the National Risk Assessment, they have listed all the pandemics since 1918. The mortality of this one is right down the bottom, lower than any of the others. And let me repeat that. The mortality rate of this one is right down the bottom, lower than any of the others. When I heard this from Lord Sumption, it only confirmed what I was seeing all around the internet. Now, it also confirms that the news outlets that we are, the main news outlets, are basically fake news. They're giving us a lot of fake news, and this, as I say, the government has spread fear and turned it into power, which is very, very true, because a lot of our human rights have been taken away. You know, they've been telling us what to do, where to go, who to see, and they've controlled our rights of free movement, our rights to free speech. There's been a lot of censorship, and I hope my video is not censored, because I'm just quoting what other people have said, and it's factual, and there's evidence. The own government papers have said this. So someone is not being totally honest with us. For me, I have to ask the question, who's running the country? Is it the government, or is it deep state? And I think all the countries around the world and its citizens of these countries have to say the same thing, because everything's been very well orchestrated throughout the world, and there seems to be a pattern. Because again, I have to go to the internet, because the mainstream media is not sharing this information, because the mainstream medias are funded by a lot of these billionaires, yeah, and that's including actually Bill Gates, because he's one of their biggest private funders to the BBC. So we need to be clear, and we need there to be like a public inquiry into what's happening, because a lot of people's life has been destroyed. A lot of the businesses have been destroyed. Unemployment is going to probably go through the roof. They predict 3 million people will be unemployed for something that is, the mortality rate of this is right at the bottom. So all the pandemics since 1918, and they rate this one right at the bottom. And you close down the country on, well, what can I say? And it seemed like it was only a small group of people that made the decision. Why wasn't there more of a collective? Why wasn't there more scientists around the world, doctors around the world? But I think you could count it on one hand that made that decision. That was wrong, because that was a big, big call. But anyway, this quote is a fantastic quote. Never be afraid to raise your voice for honesty and truth and compassion against injustice and lying and greed. If people all over the world will do this, it will change the earth. William Faulkner. And that is true. And not everyone's going to agree with you and so forth, but that's life, you know. You know, that's why we have debates. Yeah, I like to hear all sides of the debate, not just one side as what we're getting. We're being believed it's just one side and everyone's agreeing. No, that's not what's going on here. going to the internet, I think there's a lot of evidence coming out there now. So, and there's a lot of doctors coming out too, and they are not agreeing with what the mainstream is telling us. So there you go. But anyway, lose my train of thought now. But like I was saying, people, you know, leave your comments. Don't forget to like, share and comment. And yeah, let's have the debate. You know, we're willing to have the debate. Government don't seem like they want to debate, you know, but we're willing to have the debate. People have to respect each other's opinions, and move forward. So guys, on that note, take care, stay blessed, and I'll catch you next week.